Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
With us here, the Sports IQ, Larry Smith, the producer, Tony, editor, Josh, coming to you here on this Tuesday. Hard to believe we are now past the halfway point in June. How did that happen, right? Wasn't it just like, I don't know, Kentucky Derby? It was like last week? No, it was almost 2 months ago. Anyway, lots coming up here. Great show coming up. A couple of CBS Sports guys that we love having here on the show. Robby Kalland getting us ready for the U.S. Open this weekend. We'll be talking a little golf with him. And then a bit later, Austin Nivison. We talked with Jasmine Wimbish yesterday and put a cap on the NBA season. We'll do the same with Austin here for NHL with the Hurricanes, the champions of the National Hockey League. That's all coming up here in the show. Lots to talk about today, and it looks like the college sports world will avoid the nuclear war that people have been predicting. Another wild day on the Brendan Sorsby front. Early on Monday, Big 12 officials filed a federal lawsuit against Texas Tech University and three top officials over the school's intention to allow Sorsby to suit up a quarterback for the Red Raiders football team this fall. Now, all this a week after Sorsby and Texas Tech obtained a court ruling in Lubbock County preventing the NCAA from punishing Sorsby over betting on sports. The lawsuit also names Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton as a defendant after Paxton threatened the Big 12 with punitive fines if they attempted to take their own action to punish Sorsby on Texas Tech. This just got crazy. The lawsuit filed in Dallas federal court said the Big 12 seeks, quote, to leave no doubt in the minds of its many other upstanding student athletes to potential student athletes, to its rival athletic conferences and their member institutions and the general public of exactly where it stands on an important moral, ethical, and legal issue, end quote. And asking the judge to declare the conference has the right to punish Texas Tech and for an injunction to prevent Paxton or the university to, quote, seeking to deter, coerce, prevent, or punish, end quote, the Big 12 for enforcing its own bylaws. So the conference board of directors issuing a statement after that filing, including a sentence that revealed the league's stance on Sorsby playing this year, quote, on this, universities should not field players who have bet on their own team's games in college athletics, end quote. Kind of crazy we have to say that, right? Just with all the things we've gone through, we've talked about, and we'll talk more about later. Late Monday afternoon, Texas Tech quarterback Sorsby said that he will instead enter the 2026 NFL supplemental draft. He plans to withdraw his lawsuit against the NCAA, as according to NFL Network. Now, with his temporary injunction no longer valid, he would formally become ineligible again, which makes him now eligible to enter the supplemental draft. You got that? We'll have a test later. So the board chairman from Texas Tech, Cody Campbell, had this statement. This decision was made with Brendan and his family and is purely an output of practical analysis of the situation. Brendan and Texas Tech standing on very solid and legitimate legal ground, but he faces a June 22nd deadline to be eligible to enter the NFL's supplemental draft, and there's no practical way to resolve all the various pending legal disputes and ensure his eligibility prior to this date. This is the only viable and fair path for Brendan and his teammates as well, in his future, as well as his teammates and our university, end quote. So, by the way, Texas Tech will not seek the return of any money paid out. Reportedly, his NIL deal was like $5 million. More on Brendan Sorsby later in the show. Time now for today's moment of all. Al Geiberger won the PGA Championship back in 1966, but being a major winner isn't his claim to fame. It's what he did 49 years ago this week. June 1977, Geiberger became the first golfer to shoot a sub-60 round at a PGA Tour event. In Memphis on that day, Geiberger firing off a bogey-free round, 6 pars, 11 birdies, and an eagle for a score of 59. Amazingly, he had to scramble to get the win that weekend. His historic record was sandwiched between days of even par in the first and third rounds, and even at the turn on Sunday, he trailed, but he rallied to win by 2 shots. Now, the milestone came on the heels of heartache as Geiberger's father was killed in the horrific Tenerife air disaster just 3 months earlier. But the 11-time winner and on the PGA Tour and the first sub-60 golfer gets our moment of all on this day. Be sure to listen to our daily Sports IQ with Larry Smith show on radio and podcast, and check us out on YouTube as well, Sports IQ LS.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Sports IQ with Larry Smith continues here as we get ready for the U.S. Open at Shinnecock. Great to have back on the show again, Robby Kalland of CBS Sports. Robby, good to see you. It's we were just joking before we started the show. Personally, I can't get used to the change in schedule. I'm old school, where the PGA always ends the major season right in August, and so it's so weird to think it's already done, and this is now the third major of the calendar year.
Yeah, it really has become just a sprint through the spring and summer. There isn't that kind of lull that you get. It is every month we've got a major, and it's definitely. I think what's interesting is I think it has created a scenario where I do think it ramps up some of the pressure on guys because you don't have time to kind of find your form. I think golf is a sport where you go through ebbs and flows with your game. And I don't think you have as much time now to figure it out. You know, if you don't have it in April and May, you get into the summer and all of a sudden you've got 2 shots left at the biggest tournaments, the ones that define your career. And I think that is something that to me has made this interesting in a way that whether that's good, whether that's bad, it definitely kind of ratchets up the pressure on guys where, you look at somebody like Bryson DeChambeau who missed 2 cuts to start the year at the majors. And now it's like the pressure is very much on him to figure it out going forward for especially the U.S. Open, which is the one he's won twice, because the Open Championship has never fit his game. There's a lot of pressure specifically on somebody like Bryson DeChambeau to figure it out maybe a little quicker than somebody 8 years ago when the PGA was in August had to figure it out.
Yeah. I think about it. It was 20 years ago. Phil Mickelson, and by the way, turning 56 years old. Happy birthday to Phil. But it's interesting when you think about 20 years ago that Phil at Winged Foot had the disaster. He spent, and he was coming off the hot. He'd won the PGA in August 2005. He won the Masters April 2006. And I remember interviewing him, and he told me how he went and rented a house, up there in Westchester County, and was spending, weeks going out in the early evening hours, right, and chipping balls and hitting shots on 18. But he had the time to get ready for the U.S. Open, which, of course, he had the disastrous final hole. He didn't win. Jeff Ogilvy won instead. And as a result, Phil never won the U.S. Open. But to your point, you had the time to work on it. You don't now. Yeah. It's because it's become such a sprint. It has changed the approach.
Yeah. I mean, you think about what Rory was saying about his prep for Augusta, where he basically that became his home course for, weeks, which nice perk where you can turn Augusta National into your home course. Right. But, nice little perk of winning the Masters. You can just kind of make a couple phone calls and get up there whenever you want. But yeah, I mean, it does definitely shorten the prep time because these guys had to be focused on Aronimink. Now, I think some of them weren't. I think somebody like Rory McIlroy has spoken pretty honestly about his focus is on kind of winning at the cathedrals of the game at this point. And I would venture a guess that he spent more time at Shinnecock than he did at all for Aronimink. I think he went up the week before to Aronimink for the first time to play one round before he went back to Quail or wherever it was, the tune-up for that. I would venture a guess that he's played more at Shinnecock because he has spoken about how important the history of the game is to him at this point. And, he talked after winning at Pebble, how big that was for him. And that was just the AT&T, how important that was to win at places like that. And I think Shinnecock is certainly on that list, and this will really be the only opportunity he has, to do that because I think they're back in a decade, but that seems at the very end of any potential window for him. And so I think he'll look at this as maybe not Augusta big, but I think it'll be up there for him. I think at this point, Rory really cares about certain U.S. Opens, the Open and the Masters. And so I'm interested to see how he looks. Because I would guess that he's going to be more comfortable here than he was at Aronimink.
Talking with Robby Kalland of CBS Sports, you just mentioned was something you wrote about on the website, talked about, Rory finishing the runner-up finish last year at Oakmont. What do you think he learned from that experience, kind of to your point, that may play into his thinking and preparation this year in 2026?
I don't think Robert McIntyre was runner-up.
Or does it matter at this point, since he's back-to-back Masters champion? Does it matter? Does he?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, it's interesting because he's kind of free rolling a lot of this in terms of the expectation and the weight on him. Now, I do think he has alluded to the fact that he has a goal in mind. He will no longer make that goal public because last time he did that, it went very poorly. He said he wanted to win the career Grand Slam. That was the number one thing to him, and it became such a burden and such a weight. He is at 6 majors now. I think he wants 10. That puts him pretty much guaranteed on the Mount Rushmore of golf. I think he wants 10.
Yeah.
That's a very lofty goal. There's, 4 guys that have done it or whatever. But I think that's the number he has in mind. And this is pure speculation for me. But the way he talks about opportunities and those things, I think he wants that. Now, I do think, kind of like I mentioned, I think there are, even in his mind, there's a hierarchy of what are the important ones. And I think the last 2 PGAs have kind of shown the PGA maybe just doesn't interest him to the same degree, depending on the course. I think the U.S. Open will have his attention. And I think the lesson he can take away from I think the big lesson he can take away is really the way he played at Augusta, which is, I think he can be freed up to be a little more aggressive. Which at the U.S. Open can be a danger, obviously, if you're too aggressive. But I do think it gives him an opportunity to not feel the same pressure that other guys feel in that situation where he's kind of stamped. He's pretty good. Like, if he never won another one, he'd be fine. Nobody would talk about his legacy as being diminished.
Sure.
Whereas a Scottie Scheffler needs a U.S. Open to complete the career Grand Slam. That's a different kind of pressure. So to me, that is, if I'm taking anything away from what we've seen from Rory recently, it is that if he gets in contention, I think he is in a position to feel less of the heat now than maybe some of the others. And I think we saw that on the second 9 at Augusta, when he just took control on Amen Corner when everybody else kind of melted.
Yeah. The experience of that. You mentioned Scottie Scheffler, and again, he can be the next to get that career Grand Slam. What pressure is he feeling right now to come away with a win on Sunday?
It's interesting. It's like, it's his first shot at it. And so theoretically, you'd say he shouldn't feel crazy pressure to get it done now. I think 3 guys have done it. I think it's Hogan, Sarazen, and Woods have done it in their first. That said, I think the pressure he feels right now is more about the state of his game and proving that he's still the guy. The longer he goes without a win in general, but especially a win in a major, the more kind of that veil of, we're seeing kind of cracks in the facade of what we felt like was kind of this, this guy that was unflappable, this guy that was, people talked about him like he was a machine, a robot, and we are seeing more emotion, but not necessarily the emotion people wanted to see. We're seeing, at the Memorial, he lashes out at his caddy Ted Scott over the wind and picking a bad wind, and he's not hitting the ball the way we're accustomed to seeing him hit it in terms of the ball striking. The putting's been fine, which was always kind of his bugaboo. And now it's the ball striking that's become mediocre, which was always the thing that he dominated with. And I think that is frustrating him. The fact that what was always his superpower is no longer at that hyper elite level. And I think he's just getting frustrated with his game. He'll say he's fine. He'll say he's playing well. we see what he's doing on the course. We see the reactions to shots. We see the, mocking fist pumps when he misses a putt. We see him getting head in hands, frustrated over a poor wedge shot. I think the pressure is that. I think that's what he feels. So I don't know how much, and it'll be interesting to see how much the career Grand Slam adds on top of that.
Robbie, great stuff as always. Robby Kalland, CBSSports.com, golf writer. We appreciate your insights as always, and great stuff once again as we look ahead here to the U.S. Open, teeing off on Thursday. Again, now with the third major out of four. We still have the Open, the British Open coming up in July, as it were. So some names we're watching, obviously, Rory McIlroy, obviously Scottie Scheffler as well. John Rahm, what will he bring this week? But Robbie wrote a great piece. I don't want to give the whole thing away, as I want you to go to CBSSports.com and read this, about 5 maybe long shots to watch this week. And one of them is Harris English. He just talks about, his ball striking hasn't been where he would like it to be. But again, English is someone he feels like can find his best when he needs to. He's 6th right now on the PGA Tour in stroke gained putting this season. And so we'll see if that plays well for him at Shinnecock Hills this week. Again, they're in Long Island. Always fun to see our national championship there on Long Island. So many great courses there. He's talked about, again, my experience back 20 years ago actually was in Westchester County when Tiger actually missed a putt for the first time ever, missing the putt in a major after his father had died a month earlier. But Phil Mickelson, again, coming through there in 2006, feeling like he had it won, and he did, was in the lead in the 72nd hole. He chose not to put a driver in his bag, instead had a 3-wood and put it not on the fairway or even in the rough, but missed everything, put on top of the souvenir tent, wound up, I believe, with a double bogey, opening the door for Jeff Ogilvy. It was just an impossible course that week. The U.S. Open, they do... They leave the rough very high. The fairway's narrow, and so it's very challenging. I want to say that Ogilvy won that week with like an 8 over par score. I mean, that's how hard it was to score that week at Winged Foot. It was there. They stayed at our hotel there, the Crown Plaza, he and his Aussie buddies, and we stopped to partake. They allowed us to, as they were drinking champagne out of the trophy. That was really pretty cool to see that. So again, it's the 126th playing of the U.S. Open, some of the best golfers in the world, and we'll be watching for that. Again, Rory McIlroy, can he come through? He's already completed the career Grand Slam, coming off of back-to-back Masters wins. We'll see what he can do. We mentioned Bryson DeChambeau. How about Brooks Koepka as well? So we'll watch to see what happens beginning on Thursday. Okay, much more to come here on the Sports IQ.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
As we continue here on the show, big news in college sports also. In the Bluegrass, Kentucky hiring Michigan State Athletic Director Jay Batt to replace the retiring Mitch Barnhart. Batt just 1 year in his position with the Spartans. The big announcement coming on Monday and all the conversation. He'll be entering his third Power 4 athletic director job after he also served as Georgia Tech's AD from 2022 to 2025 before taking the Michigan State job last year. He's 44 years old, former North Carolina soccer player, actually won an NCAA championship with the Tar Heels on the field. Well-traveled administrator as well, with a track record for having a quick trigger on inherited coaches in high-profile sports. So, Mark Pope, beware. He enters a critical third season as UK's basketball coach. So Batt's patience with UK's most historically proud program, well, it'll be a significant plot line here in Lexington this winter. Just 5 months into his tenure as athletic director, Batt fired seventh-year Georgia Tech basketball coach Josh Pastner back in 2023. This past November, he fired second-year Michigan State football coach Jonathan Smith just 5 months after his tenure began there with the Spartans, quickly replacing him with Pat Fitzgerald, who, by the way, if you're following, has just been killing it on the recruiting trail here this spring and summer. So Pope, 46 wins, 26 losses in 2 seasons, 20-16 in the SEC. Again, this is through 2 years. He did reach the Sweet 16 in 2025, lost in the second round this year. And then another season, just had a lot of injuries this year. So that did kind of hurt their progress. But again, it's Kentucky. They expect championships, not Sweet 16s, not NCAA tournaments. And so the bar is, I don't know if there's another place, another campus in the country in basketball where the bar is higher than it is for UK basketball. Meanwhile, back in East Lansing, the place where he's leaving, longtime basketball coach Tom Izzo made it clear that he is not happy. He said he's disgusted by the on-campus turmoil that led to the departures of the school's president, also now the athletic director, and is challenging the alumni base to do something about it. In fact, he told reporters that he thinks the team president going to Clemson after 2 years is, quote, ridiculous and fueled by clashes and unrest within the board of trustees with this. He said there's no other dominoes that get affected when things go wrong like that. There are other dominoes that get affected when things go wrong like that. I'm very upset about it, and I'm sick of it. It's Tom Izzo, who led Michigan State men's basketball team since 1995 after spending 12 years as a Spartans assistant coach. Of course, he won the national title in 2000. That was the last Big Ten men's national basketball championship before Michigan won one in April. He called the outgoing president the best that's ever been here, maybe, and said his departure stems from what Izzo described as self-inflicted problems. So it is, stay tuned. College sports world, just never a dull moment, even in the offseason. It's summer. It's June. Yet it's just been insane. So anyway, there you go. Batt, the new AD, replacing Mitch Barnhart, who was there for 24 years and retires at month's end. Hey, some other big news. Serena and Venus Williams bringing their doubles partnership back to Wimbledon. The All England Club announcing a doubles wildcard invitation on Tuesday for the sisters to the tournament that starts, by the way, in less than 2 weeks. Now, the move comes after the 44-year-old Serena recently returned to competition after nearly 4 years away from professional tennis. The Williams sisters, of course, have won 14 Grand Slam titles together in doubles, including 6 at Wimbledon, going back to 2000. The last one was in 2016. Serena won her first doubles match with partner Victoria Mbako at Queen's Club in London just last week, and was slated to play doubles with Carolina Muchova at the Berlin Open later on Tuesday. The sisters Williams also last played doubles together at the 2022 U.S. Open, where they lost their opening match. That was the first time they had played doubles together in 4.5 years. But anyway, anytime you have Venus or Serena in the tennis game, on the court. It is good for the game. It is good for sport. And so it is one more reason to watch the activity at the All England Lawn and Tennis Club here over in London in a couple of weeks. Okay, quick time out and we continue here on the Sports IQ with Larry Smith. We continue here in the show, as we were mentioning again. We talked quite a bit on Monday about the Carolina Hurricanes getting their second Stanley Cup title ever, getting the win 4-2 over the Vegas Golden Knights. Joining us to put a cap on the season, our friend from CBS Sports, Austin Nivison. Austin, good to see you again. Listen, give Vegas credit for putting up a major fight against a team that had really looked really dominant throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, the Golden Knights really they came out swinging. Obviously, they had a 2-1 lead in that series, and for a second, it felt like they were going to win. I think they ran out of gas. Playing the Hurricanes, especially when the Hurricanes were as healthy as they were this postseason, it's very difficult. They forecheck aggressive. They just give you no room to breathe out there. And over the course of a 6-7 game series, I think that wears down the opponent quite a bit, particularly one in Vegas who was already pretty banged up. So I think by the end of it, the Hurricanes had simply just, they ground the Golden Knights into a powder, and it was clearly by the end of Game 6, the Golden Knights were completely out of gas.
Well, that's a great way to look at it because it was a grind, and every single game, you won by one goal or going to overtime or double overtime. And so to see how they finally just put the defensive clamps down, Carolina, that was impressive. They really come through and avoid a Game 7, a team that was so well rested, having to really fight through the series.
Yeah, that performance there, and kind of especially the last two games, Games 5 and 6, I think were what I was more expecting to see out of the series, because the Golden Knights and Hurricanes are so good defensively. They give up very little in terms of quality scoring chances, and coming into the series, I thought I had a chance to be one of the lower scoring finals of the modern era. Shows what I know. They scored 33 goals through 4 games, and it looked like it was going to be one of the highest scoring finals in a while. But then, over those last couple of games, the time and space got less and less. And I think critically, on one side, at least, the goaltending got much better when Carolina switched to Brandon Bussey, and he was spectacular in that final game. That completely improbable story, unbelievable story there. But that goaltending and that combination of goaltending and defense for Carolina really completely sucked all the life out of the Vegas offense. And then throughout the series, I didn't think Vegas played terribly defensively, but they gave up a few chances, and Carter Hart wasn't always there to make that big save at a critical time on a tough shot. So I thought pretty obviously exceptional defensive effort by the Canes to close it out for sure.
I want to kind of talk about both teams' defensive efforts. And Carolina, of course, switch goalers, get that in a moment, switching goalies. But for Vegas to stay with Carter Hart, were you surprised with all the goals he gave up? Like you said, it was an offensive show that John Tortorella didn't make a change in that.
Yeah, I think it was a tough spot for John Tortorella. I felt like if there was a time to pull him at any point in the series, it would have been in Game 5 after Andrei Svechnikov scored his first goal of the game. It was on the power play, just a little rug burner right along the ice, never left the ice at all, and it went right between the legs of Carter Hart. He wasn't ready for the shot at all. So I thought if there was a time to pull him and try to spark something, I think that would be the time. But then as you roll into Game 6, Adin Hill hadn't played a game in over 2 months. I don't think you can just ask him, say, hey, I know you haven't played in 2 months, but could you come in and play Game 6 when we have to win or we lose the final? I don't think that's a great spot to put him in. So I think if there was a time, swap should have been made during Game 5, maybe. But it was a tough spot overall. Adin Hill hadn't played in a while. Now, Adin Hill did backstop the Golden Knights to a Stanley Cup in 2023. So it's not like he hadn't been in those types of situations before, but he was ice cold. He hadn't played in so long. and I don't know that you really want to lean on that when you need to win a game. So it was, Tortorella had a tough decision. Like I said, I might have made it switch in Game 5, but there was no. I don't think there was a good decision that was available to him.
Yeah. That's on the other side. Meanwhile, Carolina, he does make the change. Frederick Anderson, who had been superlative in the first 3 rounds, was not in this, and they make the change. Brandon Bussey comes in, and that was the difference in the series.
Yeah, he was. I mean, man, what a story! I wrote about it yesterday at CBSSports.com. Like, if you had told me on October 1st that Brandon Bussey he is going to be the goalie to shut out the Golden Knights in Game 6, the Stanley Cup Final, to win a championship for the Hurricanes, I would have said, one, who was that? Two, you do realize he's a minor league goalie for the Florida Panthers right now. And three, no, he absolutely will not. But how things can change. Right before opening night, the Hurricanes need a goalie, so they claim Bussey off of waivers from the Panthers, and then he comes in and he plays pretty well for them in the regular season, gives them pretty reliable goaltending, especially given the circumstances. I don't think they really thought they were going to have to, you know, hand the crease to him in the Stanley Cup final, but they did, and he seemed to have this very relaxed, poise, kind of attitude about him that you wouldn't expect for a guy who was making his playoff debut in the Stanley Cup final. And that personality, I think, definitely lent itself to his success because he never seemed to get too high or too low. Let in a goal, kind of shake it off, move on. And then that final game, particularly in the first period and late, as the Golden Knights were pushing to try to tie, he made some show-stopping saves, just jaw-dropping stuff, and he deserves a lot of credit for. Look, I don't think he expected to get the opportunity, but he made the most of it when he got the opportunity.
Yeah, no question at all. And you mentioned, by the way, you're talking to Austin Nivison of CBS Sports, and you mentioned on the article that you wrote on CBSSports.com talking about the coach, Rod Brind'Amour, and amazing that here they are 8 straight years in the playoffs. What does this do for him? And now, obviously, the legacy. You're now a cup-winning coach, but finally getting a chance to knock the cap off and to get, as you mentioned, breaking the ceiling and getting through to the finals and winning it.
Yeah, I think there's a good case that Rod Brind'Amour should already be in the Hall of Fame as a player. Stanley Cup with the Hurricanes, captain, incredible career numbers, incredible longevity. Now I don't think there's any doubt he's getting into the Hall of Fame in some capacity because he's proven to be an exceptional coach. He just hadn't quite been able to get over that hump. And he talked about it a little bit after the game, just in terms of at times the doubt did creep in. 7 straight postseason appearances, and they couldn't get past the Eastern Conference final. It just something kind of came up every time. The offense dried up at the wrong time. The goaltending suddenly kind of went cold at the wrong time. But he managed to. But they just kept pushing. Every year they came back even more determined than the year before to get over that hump, and they finally did it in this one. I think. Look, Rod Brind'Amour is the Carolina Hurricanes. That's his legacy because they have 104 playoff wins now, and he was either a player or a coach for 102 of them. So they don't have playoff success without Rod. They don't have playoff success without Rod Brind'Amour. So he is that franchise. A lot of that success that they've had in Raleigh is owed to him. So look, it's at this point, it's tough to see him. He probably can be there as long as he wants. Let's put it that way. So, uh, honestly, easy to root for him just because of how close they'd come in the past, and to finally see them get over that hump, and to see him lift the trophy shirtless in the locker room was pretty funny. So he's it was quite the sight, and certainly cemented his legacy as one of the best coaches of his generation.
Yeah, didn't realize he had been that much of a part of their playoff success. How about Jordan Staal, 37 years old, coming through? Do you think now that he calls it quits after having this kind of season and capping it off not only with the championship but being the Finals MVP?
That's a good question. And I don't know. It's tough because I guess it can go one of two ways. It's either okay, time to ride off in the sunset. But I mean, if you're a competitive athlete like that, it's like I just won the Conn Smythe Trophy and just won a Stanley Cup. I still got it. I can keep doing
Yeah.
this. So I think that's an interesting thing. I think the Hurricanes obviously would love to keep him because he's been around for years for them throughout the entire Rod Brind'Amour tenure, and Brind'Amour credits him and a handful of other guys that have been there throughout this run of with creating this culture, something that matters more than the numbers that Jordan Staal puts up. Jordan Staal is not putting up big numbers. He is a great defensive forward, and that's where most of his value lies. But it's not like he's putting up a ton of huge numbers year after year. They like having them there for his defense and the leadership and kind of the tone setting that he brings to the locker room, and kind of giving the younger guys an example to follow. So uh, if he has any interest in continuing to do this for a few more years, I think the Hurricanes will be more than happy to have him there.
Yeah. And one of those guys, as long as you want to be around and be a part of this, no question about that. We're now in a situation where, after the Panthers winning a couple of titles, Vegas before that, another new champion right now, there is parity in the NHL, not as much as what we're seeing right now in the NBA. I'm a big fan of that. How do you feel it's going for the NHL in terms of having different teams in the mix each year?
Well, this is, I think sometimes people get a little short-sighted when they see a matchup like Vegas and Carolina in the Stanley Cup final and think, oh, this is bad for business for the NHL. Well, the NHL ever wants to break through and come, sniff anywhere near the same zip code or ballpark as the other three of the four major leagues in this country, they're going to have to grow out some of those smaller markets. So long term, this is probably great. Think about over the past handful of years, how many kids have got to see their local hockey team, whether it be in Florida, North Carolina, Nevada. All those kids are going to see that. They're going to pick up hockey sticks, put on a pair of skates. They're going to get hooked on the game. And then, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, suddenly you have a whole new base of diehard fans in these kind of quote unquote non-traditional hockey markets. And I think that's huge if the NHL wants to continue to grow as a sport and get more eyeballs on the league. So it's nice. Okay, great if Toronto or Montreal or New York, Boston there in the final, but you're just all you're doing is just you're not really growing a new market. That market's existed for 100 years. So
Right.
it's great for the NHL to push these new markets and get these diehard fans, this grassroots diehard fan base in these places where hockey has not always been the most popular sport.
Yeah. Now, no question about that. We go to the offseason now. What storylines are you following? And I'd ask your CBS colleague, Jasmine Wimbish, about this for the NBA yesterday. I'll ask the same for you. For the NHL, give us a couple of storylines that you're now following here in the offseason as we get ready to get into the offseason.
Well, I think the first and probably most obvious one is the future of Alex Ovechkin. He is a free agent. I would not expect him to go anywhere else, but he will probably either sign with the Capitals or call it a career. And I think honestly, it's tough to get a read on exactly what he's going to do. If he calls it a career, he's the greatest goal scorer in NHL history, and one of the icons of that generation. Especially for me, someone who grew up. He came in the league when I was a kid, and watching his entire career. For my generation, probably a top 5, top 10 player. And then, if he comes back, okay, what do the Capitals do around him to try to get him one more Stanley Cup run? So I think the future of Ovechkin is certainly one. And then I think the other thing we have to look at too is, you have some of these superstars who maybe are not thrilled with their current situation, whether it be Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, you could probably throw in there. So what happens with them? Do we see some movement on the trade market? Are there more reports that teams start calling to check in on, okay, what is it going to take to get this player out of Edmonton or Toronto or Ottawa? So I think kind of monitoring some maybe a little disgruntled superstars. And then I think finally, for me, it's kind of in the same vein, very weak free agency class this year. A lot of the stars have re-signed with their current teams. So does that prompt trades? The salary cap is going way up, but there's not a bunch of players to spend that money on the free agency market. So does that prompt a lot more trade kind of action than we've seen the past few summers?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Kind of putting a cap on this. It's just been a fantastic run. I love having different teams. By the way, I'm a Caps fan, so I'm rooting for Ove to stay.
Sure. Sure. Yes.
One more year. Yeah, just one more, please. One more year. Look, it's been a lot of fun, and we appreciate having you along the way as well with this. And man, enjoy the off season if you can. Enjoy some time off.
Yeah, I will. Trust me.
All right, we'll try to bother you for a while. Austin, always good to talk to you, man. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too.
All right, appreciate it. Austin Nivison joining us with the CBS Sports. And once again, kind of putting a cap on this season. The Carolina Hurricanes, again, besting the Vegas Golden Knights. 3-0 in that thrilling Game 6 out in Vegas as they get the second cup of all time. The one they won back in 2006. All right, Sports IQ with Larry Smith. We've got much more to come. Stay with us.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You gotta call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
Call 855-227-0286. That's 855-227-0286. Call us right now.
Welcome back here to the show. I want to get back to talking about that Brendan Sorsby thing. So expected to join the NFL supplemental draft. By the way, that if you don't know, that was first held back in 1977, and it allows teams to bid future draft picks on players. The league hasn't done this since 2023, and no one's been selected since 2019 when the Cardinals picked safety Jalen Thompson with a fifth-round bid. So again, it's not as common as it used to be. It was never a big thing, but it has happened over the years. Meanwhile, so the Red Raiders, empty spot at quarterback. That chair now is taken by Will Hammond, a former blue-chip recruit who's a Texas native, the rising sophomore coming off the bench against Utah last season. Delivered a nice performance, 2 touchdowns, 169 yards through the air, and a 34-10 win on the road. But Hammond tore an ACL in October, is not expected to be ready for the season opener. So, Tulsa transfer Kirk Francis, who started 10 games for the Golden Hurricane, throwing for more than 3,000 yards and 18 appearances, could be in line to start the season under center for the Red Raiders. But even without Sorsby, Texas Tech still projected as the favorite to win the Big 12 and become the first team to go back-to-back since Oklahoma won 6 straight conference titles from 2015 to 2020. So for now, this case seems closed, but the effect on college sports will be felt for some time to come. Producer Tony, we've been talking about this quite a bit here in this past week. Listen, I'm really glad that Texas Tech made this move. Brendan, whoever decided to do this was not going to end well, and I'm afraid would have really put a cloud over the start of the college football season had he still been in uniform as a part of this team.
Absolutely, and I think that's what everybody came to a conclusion on and decided that, okay, this just needs to stop at this point. You know, when you've got a conference suing a school inside the conference,
right,
and the attorney general from that state because you're trying to enforce your rules and they're saying you can't enforce your rules,
yeah.
Well, then I know we've been living in kind of a Wild West scenario in college sports. This goes beyond Wild West. This goes beyond anything any of us have ever seen. I mean, and the people speaking out against this, we heard Kirk Herbstreit had some comments last week that he was just disgusted by everything that was going on in college sports, from the teams to the athletes to everything involved. And one report I read, Larry, said that there was a school in the Big Ten that had already told Texas Tech, we're canceling a volleyball match that we have with you for the fall. Because of this, we're not coming down there, no way, no how. So, I mean, when you start adding up all the factors, where was Texas Tech going to get a win here? They weren't. There was no good winnable situation. Where was the Big 12 going to get a win here? They weren't. There was no big winnable situation. Everybody was just trying to enforce their own rules, and it had to come to an end, sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And like we talked before, what I don't understand is that organizations have rules and they should be allowed to enforce those rules if they don't break any laws, right? And so if you are a member of a conference, you have signed the whatever long document that goes with it saying you'll adhere by those rules, and therefore you will get the benefit of those rules. You'll get the millions of dollars in payout and media money and the NCAA tournament appearances, et cetera. If you can't agree, if the 12, 14, 16, 18 teams, if they can't agree within, there's a problem. And that's where I just don't quite understand. It's where we're going. Maybe this is actually something where we're going to teach society something, that we have these rules and laws in place for a reason, and they do matter.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, because that's what we all need. You have to have rules that govern a society. Unfortunately, you've got too many people out there in this world, whether it be in sports, whether it be in politics, whatever it is, acting in a way that says, I'm going to keep going to somebody else until I get the answer I want. It's kind of like the little kid who goes and asks mom at an hour before dinner time, can I have ice cream? And mom says no. So the little kid goes, okay, I'll go ask dad. What did dad say? Well, dad says no too. Well, let me try grandma. There's going to be somebody that's going to let me have some freaking ice cream before dinner time around here. So you keep going. It's the same thing here. You keep going till you find a judge that will rule in your favor, and you just keep going to court after court after court till you get the ruling you want. Because unfortunately, we live in a society where telling somebody no, they can't have something is somehow wrong. And I don't understand that at this point.
Yeah, I don't understand it, and it's a thing that again, they've got to get a grip on this, and maybe it comes down to the conferences, being more stringent with their rules, the way they set things up. I don't know, but there has to be a way, because this is just going to continue. This was one we avoided right now. But my final question for you, before I know we got to running out of time, the NFL is incredibly anal about gambling, right? So my question is, I mean, clearly he's a very good quarterback, but does the NFL turn a blind eye and draft him with their history of gamblers?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think somebody might take a flyer and say, look, we're going to put him in treatment for a year and a half and monitor him, but we figure it's worth a 6-round pick, but he is not going to see the field until we fully feel he's ready to do that and has cured this addiction. That's the only way I can see it working.
Yeah. Stay tuned and see what happens here in the supplemental draft and what team does that. So, okay, we're out of time. We appreciate our guest stopping by, and we appreciate you as well. It's a Sports IQ with Larry Smith. Make this a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the show.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.